What's up, everyone? Welcome back to After the Storm, and welcome to a brand new series. We are moving on to NHL 07. I did make an announcement on the channel, just in like a little note, if you had seen that I was moving away from the NHL 06 series kind of indefinitely. I'm hoping to come back to it. But the reason for that is the setup and kind of everything that the NHL 06 series entailed, because I ran it through a PS3, and PS3s have HDCP encryption on their videos, so I had to use a splitter. And in the honest to God easiest method to explain it, it wasn't the most easy setup. As you can also tell, the setup behind me is quite different. I moved to an apartment I'm recording this in August, like late August of 2024, and I moved to an apartment last September, and there was just no room for everything. Like, I got everything set up, but there was just to film and to record an episode of the series, and especially with the way the apartment was set up, it wasn't very big. It wasn't very sound-wise. It wasn't very good for that. I just realized that the game audio is still coming through, so that's fun. I'm just gonna make sure we turn that off. Sound settings. Menu music volume is gonna go off just entirely because too many copyright times on these videos. I've tried to keep it on there. As always, there's a link in the description below, guys, if you want to go check out a playlist I made on Spotify 5-6 years ago now. Anyway, it encapsulates most, if not all, of these soundtracks all within it. Probably from like NHL 2002 to NHL 16 or 17. Go check it out if you're a fan of the NHL series music. It is fantastic. Anyway, back to explaining this. I want to do this very quickly because I want to get into the video. This one will be a longer one today anyway, so as always is the case with the first video in any series. Moved to an apartment, small, crowded, me and my fiance at the time, now married, so that was another reason why I haven't been doing these videos. So a main thing was, just that I didn't have a lot of room. The setup, the time consumption, it wasn't very good. Everything's a lot better now, and the new setup behind me is because we bought a house. And we have an office. You can see behind me, like right where my hand is pointing, there's another monitor. That's her side because she works from home. But nevertheless, it's just a better setup now, and it's time. And with all that other stuff, with the splitter and the PS3 and all that, it is a lot of work. I am going to come back to NHL 06 in the future. I just don't know when. And I obviously don't want to come back to it in the best way I can describe it, as I want to come back to it through an emulator. That's how I'm playing NHL 07 right now, because I got a custom built PC and it can run everything very, very well without issues anymore. So I want to just kind of illustrate why the NHL 06 series is prematurely ended. NHL 07 is a much better game anyways. It was getting kind of boring with NHL 06. And yeah, it felt appropriate to just move on. It had taken the most time of any series, and it really shouldn't have. I still love the game. I still love what we were kind of doing with it. But I just wanted to move on to something else here. And NHL 07 is that. So this one is basically the penultimate game. Like, NHL 08 is when I started playing on the next gen consoles. That was the first time I played on the next gen consoles. Got a 360 just for NHL. NHL 08 was kind of a little janky, but I've played 07 on the 360, that era, and it is not good at all. Not good. So we're going to stick with what is here, the PS2 version slash Xbox version of NHL 07, because I think it is like akin to NHL 14 on the 360 PS3 version. Is just like that game is just like the best one. And this one feels like that too. They got rid of the arcadey stuff that was in NHL 06. It kept a lot of the good stuff from NHL 06, but really kind of started focusing and shifting more to a simulation-based game. And that's just the stuff I love. So in this video today, we will reveal what team we're going to be using for the series. We're going to go through jerseys and we're going to go through rosters. Like, jerseys and rosters are typically, to me, the most important stuff in terms of selecting a team. We've typically gone through, and even to 06 this was the case, I've always choose the team I felt should have won the cup in that year. So in NHL 06, I picked Ottawa because they had Hasek in net, and that was before he went to the Olympics, got a groin injury, and then Ray Emery took over, and they ended up losing in the second round, I believe, to the Buffalo Sabres. And I'm kind of doing that here, but it's more so a team that I don't want to go through too many more games without using, and especially because of their jerseys, you'll see who we ended up picking. But I just want to get through, get a series with this team before they kind of become bad. And also, I don't think I'm going to constantly pick a team that I think should have won the cup, just because that's not super fun. So sometimes there's like, I say this in meaning that one of these games I'm going to do the Atlanta Thrashers. Like, that will be for sure. It probably will be on the 360, like NHL 08, 09, 10, 11. I think 12. I'm not sure if I don't think they're in 12 because they flipped over to the Jets in that game. But I'm going to use that team at some point during this series, like going through all these games, because they're the Atlanta Thrashers. They're no longer in existence, and I just love their jerseys and everything like that. So there's going to be some differentiating as we go forward. I also like, there's going to be teams, there are going to be players, rookies that come into the league, stuff like that, where I'm going to be like, you know what, we're going ahead and we're using this team. So it won't just stick to the idea that, oh, this team should have won the cup. In my opinion, we're probably going to have games where we use a much weaker team, try to make the playoffs with them, try to go for a run on the cup, but we'll see when we get there. For now, though, let's go ahead and jump into taking a look at the rosters for each team. All right, so starting out here, I'm gonna actually minimize myself just a tad so we can see everything here. Perfect. So starting off here, Anaheim. This is the team that ended up winning the Stanley Cup, and obviously these rosters aren't exactly completely accurate to what the trade deadline or free agent signings or anything like that. I went through and edited jersey numbers. I tried to make everything as accurate as possible, but I also didn't touch free agency. I'm just gonna let the rosters ride. I've done that before. I've created rookies, stuff like that. I'm gonna let it ride this time. Like, NHL 08 is gonna be the first time we see Evgeny Malkin. Patrick Kane maybe in that game. I think Kane usually waits for 09. I could be wrong on that one though, but I'm not gonna go ahead and jump into the process of making all these players and stuff, because again, it is a one-year mode. If we were doing an extended franchise mode, which might happen in the future, I would say that I would go ahead and make these players. But for now, for what we're doing, we're kind of keeping it sort of default to the rosters and just kind of letting the game be itself. Very roundabout way of saying I'm going to treat this like I'm opening the game for the first time. So anyways, these aren't in alphabetical, or they're not even in alphabetical overall order. They seem to be somewhat, but like, I don't know why Chris Pronger at the top anyway. Chris Pronger, 91 overall, one of the best defensemen in hockey at this time. Again, this is the Ducks team. They flipped from the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim to this team. Honest to God, if we have to go back to NHL 06, I might use the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim. But again, they're also coming back this year, so that'll be pretty cool. Brizgalov, Fedoruk, Getzlaf, Jaguar, of course, in probably his second best playoff run next to 2003. Here, Konopka, that's probably a very young Zenon Konopka, a young Chris Kunitz, Todd Marchand, Andy McDonald. This team was so good. And Scott Niedermayer, 94, of course. Scott Niedermayer was so good at this time. Captain of this team, Sammy Paulson, Dustin Penner, Corey Perry, Teemu Selanne. A really good... Vitaly Vishnevsky in 86 seems like way too high for Vishnevsky. But, I mean, this team was just so good. And the ratings are so different by comparison to what they are today. There's a lot more spacing of players. Like, you can have a 76 Travis Moen in your lineup, and it doesn't really make that much of a difference. Another thing I'm going to point out, because I'm using an emulator all through my PC, there's now going to be no input delay. There's not going to be a difference in audio or anything that I have to worry about, so I'm very excited about that. I'm going to switch this to, like, free agency. Perfect. So that's going through Anaheim here, Atlanta, moving on there. Again, not a very good team at this time. A few good players, Peter Bondra, Braden Coburn, a very young Braden Coburn here. Eric Bolton, one of the biggest fighters in the league. Greg DeVries, going through the NHL 06 series, you guys would recall DeVries was part of the Heatley-Hossa trade. He is here in Atlanta. Also, another thing to point out here that I really like is the free agents, or not the free agency, sorry. This salary cap is a really cool feature. I do have contact with one of the game changers from EA that is kind of in communication with the team at EA about Creation Zone and some franchise stuff, but mostly Creation Zone stuff. And I did mention that I think this is a feature that needs to come back in both the player movement and the edit player screens in the current games. Because I don't know if you guys, if you play the modern games, you know that almost every time you start a franchise mode, when you hit like yes to start, it always says that like, oh, you need to can the computer make or auto adjust salaries for you to make sure that every team is cap compliant. And you almost always have to do that no matter how much roster balancing you do yourself. So I suggested that this thing where you can see right below Atlanta here, it says salary, $39.93 million out of $44 million. I think this is a feature that should just come back. It should be something relatively simple to do. But I would like to see it come back because I want to be able to balance rosters. I don't like the fact that you could start up like a franchise mode or something with the Toronto Maple Leafs and like suddenly Matthews goes from a 13.25 or whatever his contract is, I think it's around there, and he just drops back to like an $11 million player. Like, why do the Leafs get to save $2 million on a cap hit that goes for 5 additional years just because they were over the cap at the beginning, sort of thing? I don't like that. I want things to be more or less as accurate as possible, and I think it's a good idea. Anyway, going through the rest of Atlanta here, Nick Havlat, a pretty good defenseman. Bobby Holik, Marian Hossa. Bobby Holik, again, this is the first game that has the salary cap. NHL 06 did not. That was considered the lockout year. I guess actually not. I guess that was considered the first year. That was the Carolina Cup win coming back from it. But they didn't, I guess, have time to put the salary cap in it, or I'm not exactly sure. I would love to interview one of the developers, somebody on the development team at this time of this era of games. I'd have to find out who they are, honestly. But I would love to interview them, just find out a little bit more about the process of these games. What went into, what do you do during a lockout season where there's not any NHL being played? How do you change overalls? How do you add players that aren't there? Stuff like that. Hossa, Kovalchuk, again, this is a very good offensive team with a very young Kari Lehtinen in the net, but just no real defense on the team. I do recall playing as Atlanta a lot when I got this game. Like this was probably one of the first games I did where I went away from just, at the time I was a Sens fan, this was one of the first games I went away from playing just as my favorite team all the time. I started, jumping around the league using other teams. I remember Nashville. I remember having a San Jose franchise in NHL 07 that I wrote about as part of an assignment in grade 5. Like my grade 5 class, like a journal entry or something. Just talking about like the players and how many points they had and stuff like that. Highly doubt he'll ever see this, but shout out to Mr. Kellogg for allowing me to write about video games and sports, because like that was my jam growing up as a kid. That's all I wanted to talk about. On to Boston. Mark Savard, 92. He is just he's a few years away from having his career ended by Matt Cook, but like he is just in his prime right now. Patrice Bergeron, 88. Relatively still on the young side here. Brad Boyes, I think, has like, if we take a look at his player card, like he has like 90 something. He has 96 potential. He's a 24-year-old. Again, the potential system is kind of janky at this point. But, I mean, he's 24. How much more is he really going to grow? But again, Boston at this time, not a very good team. Honestly, not a world-beating team at this point. Brian Leetch, I believe Brian Leetch, this was like he signed in Toronto. He played like 2 or 3 games, and then the lockout happened, and he left for Boston. Glenn Murray, a NHL 2005 merchant. Brad Stewart, Marco Sturm is still here, which means Marco Sturm is here, I should say, so that means the Thornton to San Jose trade's already gone through, so, and also 85 overall Tim Thomas. And Char is here. Char is here as well, signing over from the Ottawa Senators. Yeah, this is kind of like the beginning of a new era for Boston. They started getting rid of some of these guys, but it took a couple years before they started coming back into like contention, like contending and not being a bit of a joke. On to the Buffalo Sabres. So let's get this right out of the way. Buffalo is our team for this mode. We are using the Buffalo Sabres again. It combines 2 things. One, the jerseys, the goat head logo, and arguably to me the team that should have won the Stanley Cup this year. That's the biggest thing. They had such a good season. They actually didn't have these jerseys, I think. Did they go to the Buffalo Slug jersey? I have the Buffalo Slug jersey, so I'll probably wear it for episodes here. I'm trying to recall. I think 06-07 they did go to the Buffalo Slug jersey. I seem to recall the Sabres wearing it. Maybe they were wearing their alternate. Not exactly sure. But anyway, Maximum Finnegan on 90 overall. Man, such a good player. One of the true modern players. Like 99 speed, dude. He's going to be a killer. Again, also, I haven't figured out if I'm going to play the games or commentate the games. I might do a hybrid where I play, like we'll have a play episode and then we'll have like 3 episodes of commentary or something like that, just to kind of mix it up and keep me playing and just having both. I'm not exactly sure yet. I've watched a couple games through the broadcast, like just going to that style, and I think it does work. But I do also want to play, but I'm not sure yet. I don't want to commit to anything yet. I'd say we'll probably start with the commentary side and just see how it goes. The AI is a lot better in 07 compared to like 2005, where they just did the same like 4 things over and over and over again, and that's why I started playing the games. Martin Biron, as he might be the backup right now, I think, to Miller. Danny Briere, my favorite player of all time. Co-captaining with Chris Drury at this point. I'm not sure. And looking at the Sabres, they have $14 million to spend nearly in cap space. That's pretty crazy for a team this stacked. Brian Campbell, so good at this point. Tim Connolly at his height. Drury kind of winding down his career. JP Dumont actually was in Nashville for this season. He had signed there in the offseason. but we're holding on to him. Paul Gostad, such a good bottom six power forward. Jochen Hecht, Jilson, Kalinin, so good. Alish Kotelik, underrated. Tony Ludman, so good. And there's Ryan Miller. He honestly, an 87 might not even be good enough for Ryan Miller. He is just fantastic. Teppo Newman and Nathan Page. I think Nathan Page is like a speedy guy in this game too. I think speed 91. Yeah, I do recall him being like speedy as hell on this team. So it is in alphabetical order, so this still is confusing the hell out of me as to why Chris Pronger was like top in Anaheim. I feel like they put a space in between his stuff, but anyway. Taylor Pyatt, Derek Roy, so good. Tallinder, so good. Thomas Vanek. So, there's a Facebook group I'm a part of, and there's a group chat that we have with the creator of the group, and he's a Buffalo fan. So he said if I were to do Buffalo, I gotta trade Vanek to Edmonton, and like the offer sheet went through. So that is definitely a consideration. Vanek is quite good though. What's his potential? 89. So he's pretty much what he is. Very good though. Speed 99. Oh my god. I love how they differ these attributes. There's so much less of them, but I love how they differ these attributes in these old games. Vanek, Spacek, another guy. I feel like the team has just too many left shot D. Like Tallinder, I'm pretty sure is a left shot D. Heish is. Ludman is. Let's see who else here. Brian Campbell is. So there might have to make a trade just to get a better right shot D in, just like right off the start. But we'll see what we're at when we start that. Calgary, moving on to Calgary. Tony Amonte, older in his career again. This is Calgary, a few years removed from the Stanley Cup final run against Tampa. Mark Giordano, how young is he though, really, at this point? 23, yeah. Even then, he's still like 23. He's still basically not even a prospect anymore. Yeah, Hammerlick, Hulse, Huselius, Jerome Iginla, 95. Like, come on, Ziggy, so good. Mika Kiprasov, so good. Damon Langkow, that is a high rating for Damon Langkow at this point, but he was pretty good. Matthew Lombardi, probably one of the better pickups you can have in this era of games. Guy is just speed. He's even good at face-offs in this. Face-offs 90. 90, dude. He is so good. I love Matthew Lombardi in these games. Brian Marchman, rest in peace. Darren McCarty still here. Footoff's first game that he's in here, and he is a 91. Not sure if he won the Rookie of the Year this year or not. Potential 99, dude. Holy. Slapshot power 99, slapshot accuracy 93. It doesn't get talked about enough how much of a killer Dion Phaneuf was when he came into this league and how Toronto ruined his development so badly. Yeah, a couple more. Alex Tanguay here. Again, this isn't a team that I'm not sure if they made playoffs in 07 or not, but they were a pretty decent team. As we take a look at the defending Stanley Cup champions at this point, the Carolina Hurricanes, my favorite team. Brendan Moore at 90, Cole at 90, Mike Commodore coming off a fantastic playoff run, got an 88. I'm not sure if he ever got up that high again. Brett Hedican, who I share a birthday with. Frantisek Caberlet, 87 overall. Geez, must have been at his height here. That's got to be a very young Andrew Ladd. 20 years old, potential 86, pretty good player. Chad LaRose, Mark Recchi on this team, Eric Stahl, a 95. As also worth noting, Eric Stahl would be the cover star for NHL 08 the next one in the series. Corey Stillman, an 88, pretty good player. What a veteran presence. Cam Ward, a 90. And Justin Williams, a 90. Justin Williams from where I live, my hometown, Coburg, Ontario. John Graham is the backup. Like, what's the, yeah, Ward and Graham, pretty decent. Like, Carolina's pretty good. They have a decent team. Nothing, no player other than like Stahl really stands out, but that's just a solid team. Chicago's in the dumps right now. They may or may not even have their games broadcast on local television because their fans want, sorry, their owner wants the fans to actually show up to the building, which completely backfired. But this is right when they're going to get, they've drafted Taves, they're about to get Kane, like they're on their way up. Cam Barker, 2005 draft, I think, 2004 draft, I can't remember what he got. Oh yeah, as we take a look here, draft year 2004, draft choice, 3rd overall. Little other information. It will tell you what line he plays on, injury status, his contract, and a comment about the player's morale, which is pretty cool. I was just coming here to look at his potential because Cam Barker was very highly touted but never really amounted to too much. And even then, the game has him at an 82, which is not very good. Corey Crawford here. Eric Daze had retired. Duncan Keith here. Nick Habibulin. I think, again, a lot of players becoming such cap casualties. I keep forgetting where to look because I'm so used to like looking up on my monitor, but I've got it like right on the test. Martin Lapointe. Seabrook here, Patrick Sharp, again, like you can see the makings of this team. Marty Havlat there. You can see the beginnings of this championship franchise forming here, but they're still a ways off. Like they're at least 2 to 3 more. Well, they're 2 to 3 years away from a cup, anyways. But they're like a couple years away from even having a competent team. On to Colorado again. This is just an example of a team that is just absolutely battered by the salary cap. Like they had to get rid of players. Forsberg's gone at this point. Jordan Leopold pretty good. Andrew Burnett scored the goal that ended Patrick Waugh's career in Minnesota, and then he ends up on Colorado a few years later. Brett Clark, Jim Dowd maybe? Is that Jim Dowd? Yep, Jim Dowd, 37 years old at this point. Wow. Face-offs 88. That'd be a good bottom 6 guy. Milan Hajduk here. Caleb Perrier. John Michael Lyles really at his height. He was so good at this time. Joe Sakic still a 94, of course. So good. Mark Svatos, rest in peace. What a player. What a dynamic. Again, like you talk about like a Afinogenov, and he's like the right-handed Afinogenov, man. He was so good. Jose Theodore here at this point. That was after the trade with Montreal for David Abisher. Vonanen, Walski, Brisebois, Turgeon. Again, a good team, but not one that you're thinking is like, oh, for sure, slam dunk, they're going to the Cup final like they were a few years earlier. Columbus. Okay, so Columbus is just bad at this point. They are not good. They're picking up the scraps. Like they were a team that they look like a team that basically acquired all of the players that teams can no longer afford, and just were like, yeah, we'll put them here, kind of thing. Brian Berard. I think Berard was on Columbus in NHL 6 because we traded for him. Brule's young here. Chimera's young. Sergei Fedorov, again, that's a cap casualty in Detroit. Had to go somewhere. Adam Foote, a cap casualty in Colorado. Had to go somewhere. The fact that Colorado lost both Blake and Foote is pretty crazy. But again, not a whole lot here. Ron Hainsey, relatively young. Rusty Klesla was a very highly touted defender. Eventually ends up in New York and just kind of tops out as a top 4 guy. Pretty decent career, but wasn't that top 2 defenseman that it seemed like Columbus had got. By the way, just pointing out that Columbus logo is so much better than their current one. Pascal Leclerc, Rick Nash, 92 overall. Again, he's the whole team here. There is not a whole lot around him. David Viborny, pretty decent. Nick Zherdev, again, very young Nick Zherdev here. Probably, just wondering how old he is here. 21, potential of 87. Again, a guy who was looked at as he was going to be one of the best players in the league in a couple of years, and he just never really panned out to that. Ends up in New York, ends up in Philly, and then probably ended up in the KHL at some point. Freddie Modine here, again, Jan Hrdina, again, just guys that were almost certainly looking at their cap hits, just cap casualties at this point. Dallas, again, just slowly coming out of their competitive window here. Not a bad team by any stretch, but a team that certainly is, you can see the window closing. Lettinen's not as good anymore. Medano, I think this is right around the time they did the captaincy swap to Morrow, which was really weird. Steve Ott, Robida, Marty Turco still here. Sergei Zubov, an incredible defenseman. So underrated. Daryl Sador is pretty good. On to Detroit again. Detroit, a team that probably took a couple years to figure out the cap stuff. Moved on from Sergei Fedorov. Moved on from, I'm wondering if Hasek came back for this season or if that was 2008. I can't recall. I think it might have been this season actually. But Hasek, they moved on from at one point. Again, a pretty decent team, but led by some of their younger players. Datsuk, Zetterberg here. Chris Draper's still kicking around. Great bottom 6, middle 6 guy. Holmstrom, Hoodler, Kopetsky, oh man. Such good drafting by this team. Brett Labda was solid. Manny Legacy, a good goaltender, but then you add in guys like Robert Lang around them. Lidstrom at the height of his career, so good at this point, still has so much more to give. Probably could have played another 5 years if he really wanted to and been so effective, but left on the top of his game. Matthew Schneider, I think that's like Jason Williams or something. I have no idea why he's an 85. Zetterberg, Filppula, very young. Again, just Detroit is the epitome of a team that was good and then just kept drafting good players after good players after good players. Datsuk and Zetterberg getting those guys such late rounds and turning them into superstars. Incredible. Edmonton. I feel like Edmonton falls off a cliff a little bit. I'm not sure about 06-07 if they even made playoffs. After going to the Cup final, I can't recall. I feel like they fell apart. I feel like they traded Ryan Smith this season to the Islanders. Just weird stuff where they just fell apart. Ales Hemsky's so good. Horkoff, Morrow. Michael Pekka wasn't here. He was actually in Toronto. He signed there in the offseason. Fernando Pisani. Dwayne Rolson. Again, this isn't a bad team by any stretch. Sergei Samsonov, Jason Smith, Ryan Smith, Steo Stoll. So just a lot of good Rafi Torres before he became the worst offender in the league. And a very young Joffrey Lupul involved in the Chris Pronger trade. A good team that should be a lot better, but really wasn't. On to Florida again. Not a good team at this point. A lot of young upstart players. Jay Bomeister among them. This is a young Craig Anderson, and he has hair in his photo, which is crazy. I've never even known Craig Anderson to be anything but bald. And he has hair. Nathan Horton, pretty young here. Olli Jokinen before he most likely takes a trade away. somewhere. Joe Newendike right at the end of his career. Gary Roberts, again, like Florida was a retirement capital at this point. Mike Van Ryn, very young Stephen Weiss, Bertuzzi, right? This is a couple years removed from the Steve Moore incident. LA, Rob Blake, Derek Armstrong, Sean Avery. This is one of the more underrated teams, I think. Camilleri here, such a good player. So good in these video games. Dustin Brown, future captain. Craig Conroy, pretty good. Frolov, Alexander Frolov, again, another player that was just so good. So good at this time. Potential of 97. He's just... Man, he was so good. Ends up in New York as well. I think he bounced around a little bit before he ended up probably in the KHL or something like that. We skipped across some stuff. Tim Gleason here. Diaz Nordstrom. George Peros here, Jesus. Konstantin Pushkarev. I remember always getting this guy, and he is so much better as the 79 overall than like the game gives him credit for. He doesn't even grow, he doesn't do anything, but he's just like quick, fast, and can shoot. Lubomir Visnovsky, pretty good. Alan McCauley, Dan Kluche at the end of his career. Again, LA was another team that was just not very good at this point in time. They were just kind of hovering around, and you know, obviously we know within about 5 years they're going to win cups, so they've got some pieces there. Minnesota, really not sure what Minnesota is at this point. Pavel Dmitry is here. Pierre-Marc Bouchard, a very young Brent Burns. Alexander Dyke, just his last kick at anything. Manny Fernandez. Marian Gaborik is here before he looks to move on from the team and ends up in New York as well. Getting a lot of players ending up in New York in these the next like 3 or 4 years. Mikko Koivu, future captain. Brian Ralston. Wes Walls. How old is Wes Walls in this game? 36. Speedy as hell though. Wes Walls. Man, not much else here. Kim Janssen here. Keith Carney. There's just not a whole lot for Minnesota. I'm not... Some tells me they didn't make playoffs in 07. I'd have to look at the standings, have to look at like the first round matchups. David Abisher, again, this is Montreal. Not great at this point. They're still waiting for Carey Price to grow into the starting goalie. Bullish, Bonk, jeez. Cristobal Huey. Zaku Koivu's still here. Mike Thomas, Eric Young, Kostitsyn brothers. They don't seem to have Sergei Kostitsyn on this roster, but Kovalev in his kind of last couple of years. Andrei Markov's so good as a left shot D. Buchanan's Ribeiro. Mike Ryder, so good. Sheldon Surrey here before he's going to move on. I think he goes to Dallas. And Zednik. Not sure Zednik was actually on the team. I think he maybe ends up in Florida this season, or maybe it's the next season. Nashville, Arnott, Erad again. Nashville, another team that started capitalizing on the cap issues of other teams, but also a very underratedly great team in this game. Ham Hughes, young Scott Hartnell here. Paul Correa coming over. I think he did 1 year in... It was 1 year in Colorado from the lockout stuff and then moved on. Him and Forsberg, I think. Actually, Forsberg must be in Philly at this point. Maybe not. Legwand, Yannick Perreault, pretty good. Pekka Rinne, 69 overall. Pekka Rinne, how old is he here? 23 already, and he has like no potential. Again, he was like a fifth or sixth round pick, and he was not slated to be that good. Timonen, Suter, Sullivan still here. Their defense is always in Nashville was their biggest thing. Thomas Vokoun, young Shea Weber, Mark Zidlichky, Jordan Tutu here. Yeah, they don't have... I'm trying to think, 06, 07, I think Forsberg was in Philly at that point. Going on in New Jersey, again, still a top contender. A few issues with, the cap or whatever, but probably the biggest thing with this era of the Devils before they had to do a little bit of retooling on the fly and they get back to the Cup final in 2012. They get to the conference final in this? No, the second round against Ottawa, and Ottawa beats New Jersey this year. But probably the biggest thing is the retirement at the lockout of Scott Stevens really did change things in Scott Niedermayer moving on. I know he'd done that, I think, previously a year prior. But two big blows on their back end that really, those guys were there for years and years. Gianta really good. Again, Brodeur still good. Breland solid. Elias and Gomez are still here. They're very good. Jamie Lagenbrunner solid. John Madden is solid. Second line, third line center. A very old Alex McGillney here. Again, he's a guy I'm kind of keeping an eye on for the Buffalo franchise. We've got so much cap. And McGillney, obviously, coming over from Russia or the USSR. Just coming over and playing in Buffalo is crazy, and I would love to reunite that. Brian Rafalski, before he eventually moves on to go win a cup with Detroit. Again, they're on their way out of contention a little bit here before they retool, but they're still a very good team. Islanders, Mike Sillinger, Brendan Witt. I remember Brendan Witt being like fast in these games. What's his speed? 88. Not that fast. Jason Blake, before he ended up in Toronto. Cancer diagnosis, stuff like that. A very good player. Rick DiPietro. Oh God, what is his? Does he have the ridiculously long contract yet, or is that? No, he only has 3 years. I guess he signed it in like 08, 09. Again, not a very good team here. Miro Shatan here. Seems like more of a cap casualty, sitting at $4 million. Alexei Yashin. Oh, good lord. Jitnik, Pody. Again, a decent team, but nothing that's standing out. Oh, the New York Rangers. Terrible team right now. Have Yager and basically nothing else. Henrik Lundqvist, young, future in net. Michael Nylander, old. Pruka, Straka. Again, this is just a terrible team. And for some reason, Brendan Shanahan's here too. But not a good team. Not a good team at this point. They are right up against the cap as well, which is insane to me. Because they are just not very good at all. It's Yager, Shanahan, Ruchinski. That is it. Ottawa would go to the Cup final this year, but obviously a little bit weaker team by comparison to what they had the year prior with Hasek and did everything the first year of acquiring Heatley. Alfredson, 92, still good. Gerber was brought in probably for the starting job and ended up losing it to Emery pretty quick. Joe Corvo, underrated right shot D. Patrick Eves, pretty good. Mike Fisher, Dominic Hasek. I think Hasek had gone back to Detroit this season. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think Hasek was on Ottawa after the 05-06 season. Heatley, of course. Chris Kelly with a criminally low rating. Mazzaros, 88. Chris Neal, 85. That's probably too high for Chris Neal. Phillips, Redden, again. Redden being chosen over Chara still remains one of the most baffling decisions in Ottawa Senators history. Peter Schaefer, decent. Spezza here is, 89. Probably should actually be higher, but I think he ends up higher into NHL 08, just for the simple fact that the pizza line went nuts this season. Vermette, Volchenkov pricing, again a decent team, but not one you'd look at on paper in this game and be like, oh yeah, they're making the conference finals, especially with their goaltending situation. Philly, Carter up on the rise here. Again, not the best team. Robert Esch, 85. Peter Forsberg was a big addition. Gagne. Man, Simon Gagne was so good. Darian Hatcher, Randy Jones, Sammy Kapanen, Mike Knuble. Peter Nedved again. I think Philly took a lot of random players on as well. Yoni picking an 89 overall, so good. Keith Primo, I don't believe Keith Primo was there at this point. I think he had actually moved on. Mike Richards, future captain, future cup winner. RJ Umberger, young here. Umberger was traded for Hart. No, who was Umberger traded for? Can't remember who Umberger was traded for. But yeah, again, Philly, not a team that you would expect is gonna break down any doors. Phoenix, I don't even know what the hell Phoenix is at this point. Jeremy Roenick, old and on his way out. Keith Ballard, pretty solid. Mike Comrie on his way out. Shane Doan, of course. Curtis Joseph, Oli Kavasha. Derek Morris was pretty good. Ladislav Nagy was pretty good. Jeff Sanderson. Sanderson's pretty old and 34. Skates like the wind, though. Yeah, I don't even know, honestly. Phoenix looks like a team that's just put like a bunch of guys thrown together. They don't really have anything to like look forward to. Like Jovanovski is old here, probably a cap casualty in Vancouver. Zibanek McCulloch was really good though. Going on to the Pittsburgh Penguins again. This is the first game officially where Sidney Crosby was in the game. As we can see here, that is a very young Sid on the screen. 88 faceoffs, potential 99. I mean, he's just one of the greatest of all time, and he's had such a career, especially after the early concussion issues. So good. Marc-Andre Fleury. Again, if you're looking at a team, if we were to be playing this playing this game to start a franchise / dynasty mode or whatever you want to call it, if we were doing that and we wanted to play with a team that's going to be good into the future, a rebuilder, holy crap, it would be the Pittsburgh Penguins. Crosby, Fleury, you could create Malkin if you wanted to. You've got so many, as I start losing my voice here, you've got so many veterans around these guys too. John LeClaire, this is the first game I think without Lemieux. Malone here. Orpik, pretty solid. Young Max Talbot, Jocelyn Thibault, again, not a very crazy good team, just so much around that you can use, and Gonchar would obviously stick around. St. Louis, Doug Waite, Bill Guerin, again, an older team at this point, not exactly sure what they are. They're in the process of drafting their big three players that they ended up taking on, which was David Backes, TJ Oshie, and David Perron. But I don't think they have any of these guys at this point. So yeah, they're kind of I think they end up with the first overall pick in 07, and they take Eric Johnson with it. If I'm not mistaken, 07. No, 07 was Patrick Kane, so 06 was Eric Johnson. So they're coming off having the first overall pick the prior season, so that's the big reason why this team is just not very good. Stempniak, Keith Tkachuk, like Doug Waite, Keith Tkachuk, and Bill Guerin on the same team in this year is just crazy to me. Like they're so old at this point. San Jose, again, a team that is right around contention, and a team that honestly would stay around contention for 10 plus years and just never do it. Closest they got is 2016. They were knocking at that door so many times. Calgary eliminates them. Edmonton eliminates them. Probably Detroit eliminated them like 2 or 3 times in there. And then they move into LA and Chicago. Like, just, man, they couldn't even catch a break. Great team, though. Young Matt Carl, young Steve Bernier, I think, too. Jonathan Chichu coming off that 50-goal year, again, when scoring was low. So he gets this huge bump to a 95. Young Ryan Clough, Eric Huff, Niels Ekman, Marcel Gotch. Josh Georges is here. Josh Georges, I guess, ended up in Montreal via trade. I didn't even know that. Scott Hannon, Patrick Marleau, 93, of course. Tom McLaren, young McCulloch before being traded for Danny Heatley. Nabokov, still good goaltender. At this point, Joe Thornton, 96, and Vesa Toskala. Again, man, the San Jose Sharks at one point had a 3-goalie system. Not a 3-goalie system, mind you, but like in their system of goaltenders. They had Nabokov, Kiprusoff, and Toskala. And all these goaltenders, aside from Toskala, like, is Toronto cursed? You gotta start asking the question if Toronto is cursed, man. Like, I don't know how he goes to Toronto and ends up just bad. Because he did. It was really bizarre. Tampa Bay. Again, another team that is really feeling it due to the cap. At this point, 2 years removed from a Stanley Cup. Mark Denis, a goaltender that kind of came out of nowhere for these guys. Dan Boyle, very good. Dave Andreychuk had retired at this point, but again, a 77 overall. Sean Burke. Again, not a whole lot. Again, aging out very quickly. Fedotenko, LeCavalier still very good. Vinny Prospel solid. Paul Ranger was young. Brad Richards very good. Martin St. Louis still very good. But not a whole lot of other stuff surrounding them at this point. On to the Toronto Maple Leafs. A team that always played as or played against a lot in this game. Raycroft, yikes. Kubina, solid defender at this point. Jason Allison was solid just on the back nine of his career. Wade Belak, Kolyakovo, Cabriolet was very good still at this point. Eric Lindros wasn't playing for the Leafs this season, actually. I think he played for Dallas and then retired. But I think he played for the Leafs in 05-06, and that's why he's here. Brian McCabe, again, Cabriolet, McCabe. Jeff O'Neill, young Ponikarovsky. I think I met him around this time as well, like 06 or 07. I met Ponikarovsky. Stajan and Steen were supposed to be like the future. Steen's potential in this game is like 91 or something, and Stajan's is like 81. So clearly something had happened where they soured on Stajan at EA. Again, Stajan had a long career, was very good. Steen the same, wins a cup in St. Louis in 2019. Matt Sundin, of course, 93 overall, so good. Darcy Tucker, 85. Ian White, Kyle Wellwood. Not a crazy good team, though. Vancouver. Again, another team that is kind of on the upswing, but still has a long ways to go. Roberto Luongo. Again, 90 might be too low for Luongo at this point. He's one of the best goaltenders in the league. Burrows, Carter, Matt Cook before he was a goon. Ryan Kessler, young Ryan Kessler. Trevor Linden on the back nine of his career. Brendan Morrison, again, still having Brendan Morrison, still having Marcus Naslund. And the only guy they're missing is Todd Bertuzzi, and that's a lot of that was due to legal issues. And I'm sure the cap did not help that cause. Matthias Zoland, Sammy Salo, the Sedin twins here, very good. Again, just not... they got a good handful of pieces. Vancouver's never a slouch in these games, that's for sure. And I think this is it, right? Yeah, Washington, the final team, taking a look here again. First game for Ovechkin as well. Nothing on this team, seriously. It is Ovechkin and basically nothing else. Kolzig, 88 overall, solid goaltender. Shane Morrison, granted exceptional status, I think, in the CHL, and just did not. He's still got an 87 potential, so he could be pretty decent, but he was just not very good. Ovechkin, 93. That's like the biggest one here. That's cover star, the speed, the shooting, like he's unreal. 52 goals in his rookie season, 106 points. Crazy stuff. So good. and still on his way to try to break that record. Danis Zubris here, probably a cap casualty as well. But just nothing here for Washington. Expectedly one of the worst teams at this time. I think this is the Nick Backstrom draft for them. So again, like they were top 3 again after this. Quickly taking a look at the free agents. Belfour, notable here. We'll go through kind of anybody who's really notable. Ty Domi, not sure where Domi ended up playing in 06-07. I'm wondering if he just didn't play. I feel like maybe he retired. Travis Green. Sean Hill is usually a good pickup. I think he's got speed. Yeah, his speed isn't... Maybe I'm thinking of a different game where he was like very fast. I could be, but... Going down, what else do we got here? Anything really notable? Sean McEachran, pretty good. Spencer Whitaker. I think this is a Make-A-Wish kid. Yeah, 15 years old. 99 potential. Yeah, they did that every year, so you kind of have to weed that player out of the game. Sabrina Ladha was another one. Ladha? Goaltender, she was put on Vancouver, I think, on the base roster, so it was like a 97. But yeah, that wraps up rosters. Taking a look at rosters. I don't even know where do I take Whitaker off? I probably will just leave it. He's an 81. He's not going to do anything crazy. But yeah, that wraps up the rosters. Let's go take a look at the jerseys for the game. So, Anaheim, first year where they go away from the Mighty Ducks branding entirely. Again, no surprise here. This alternate to me is one of the more lovely alternates. The purple stripe is nice. One of the nicer black jerseys that ever came around the league. Again, they stuck with this design for like, I don't know, 10 years, I think, before they ended up flipping over to like the D, like the foot logo, and now finally, or just that D logo in the orange, going hard onto the orange color. And eventually coming back to the Mighty Ducks logo, which is so much more preferable. Again, I feel like this is like the start of when the game started like we're taking jerseys out a little bit. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but anyway. Atlanta, such a good uniform set right here. The original home jersey, and then just that powder blue is so nice. Sky blue, whatever you want to call it. I miss that. Hopefully they'll be able to bring that back if Atlanta comes back into the league. Boston, again, the yellow shoulder, weird looking jersey. But dude, I love the Bear jersey. The vintage 81 jersey is basically what they wore this year, which is pretty cool. And then the old... Yeah, I'm not even sure which one. It was definitely the full black shoulder one that they wore this year that they've gone away from again. Like, come on. The jersey's so good. Jersey sets, oh my god, the red alternate. You got the vintage in there if you want to wear it. Gosh, it all just looks so pretty. Buffalo, definitely our team for this. Calgary's still rocking this. I like this era of Calgary jerseys. I'm not a huge fan of what they've got currently. But the 95 jerseys are my favorite of all time of Calgary ones. The alternate's really good. Again, Blasty's so good. And then the Atlanta Flames one. I love how they have the alternate and all these ones buried behind. Chicago and Carolina. Carolina, pretty they had these jerseys, honest to God, for like... I feel like they had these jerseys since like the 90s. They never went to an alternate until like 08, 09. They just kept the same ones. It's a good jersey. Nothing wrong with it. Yeah. Chicago, as always, classic. Got the black alternate, got the vintage jerseys in there. Really nice looking set. Colorado, of course, classic looking set with the maroon, burgundy, whatever you want to call it, and the Nordiques jerseys in there. Dallas, again, one of, if not the most classic jersey sets. Again, I haven't used them, and I've kind of been kicking myself due to that fact, but there's been so many other teams I want to use. Oh my god, not the Mooterus logo. It's pretty cool. They got the North Stars jerseys in there too. Yeah, they got the North Stars jerseys, the retro vintage Stars jerseys from '93. They got the current ones. Man, that's so good. Not a huge fan of their current stuff. Just can be so much better. Columbus, again, I love this jersey set for them. I love these old jerseys. I just love the old logo, the CBJ, the hockey stick, just incorporating it all looks so nice. Again, not that there's anything wrong with this logo. I think it's just the old stuff looks just better. Detroit and Edmonton. Detroit classic, what can you say? Just always looks good. Edmonton still got their dark jerseys plus the oil drop logo. And you got your vintage in there too. Vintage 96. For whatever reason, they started bringing red into their logo. Florida and LA. LA got one of the nicer jersey sets at this point too. Just the three for Florida again. You got your red, you got your blue, you got your white. Good jersey set. LA, love this era of LA jerseys. And you also got the old style stuff in there. So good looking. Just love that Los Angeles at the bottom. So good. Minnesota and Montreal. Again, Minnesota, this is again my favorite era of Minnesota jerseys. I don't like this red jersey. I don't like it. Just give me this. Bring this back on Minnesota. Stop messing around. Just bring that stuff back. Come on. It's so good. Montreal, classic as always. Good jersey set there. Nashville. Nashville, again, a jersey set that I actually really enjoyed at this point in time. I like this style. I don't like their heaviness on the yellow today. This is such a weird jersey, but I kind of love it. I like bad jerseys. I have something like Buffalo Slug. I love the Buffalo Slug jersey. New Jersey, classic. Nothing to even change here. Don't know why they went away from this. Such a gorgeous jersey. Iconic with their cup runs. It just accomplishes everything it needs to accomplish. The New York Islanders, again, I love this deep blue. I don't like the current one. I don't like this color as much as I like the dark. That's the biggest contrast for me. I love the dark blue. I love this alternate. It's one of my favorite alternates ever. And the Fisherman logo. Fisherman logo brought back by the Bridgeport Islanders. Their minor team this year, and I'm very excited to see that. Rangers, classic as always. You got Lady Liberty there. Got the old jersey sets in here too. It's good stuff. Ottawa and Philly. Ottawa, probably their best jersey collection right here. I don't like this, whatever they've done with this jersey. Tried to bring it back. I just don't like it as much. This home jersey's nice. I mean, again, it's cartoony, it's over the top, but so is the Roman Centurions. So, like, it's just, I love it. And this alternate, I have this alternate. It's one of my favorite jerseys of all time. It just looks brilliant. The Flyers, again, I like this black jersey. I love their 07-08 when they brought in the RBK Edge jerseys. To me, that's my favorite era of Philly jerseys. Again, I love the 3D alternate as well. The The Lindros era jerseys are so good too. Again, the vintage jerseys are nice. They changed them up a little bit this past season, but I like them as like an alternate. But I do love this era of Flyer jerseys. Phoenix, again, I don't mind these jerseys so much, but of course, like the Kachina jersey is just so much better. Anything with the Kachina, really, so much good. And they have all of the Jets jerseys, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I don't mind this era of Coyotes jerseys. This and like right before they switched back to Kachina are probably like the better of the two jersey sets that they had when they did this logo. But obviously, the Kachina is just so good. Like, unfortunate that they've now moved and potentially gotten rid of all that, but this is like one of the only games that has the 95 Pittsburgh. It's so good. You got your vintage, you got your Crosby era, you got your Yager, Lemieux era. Such good stuff here. Plus you could wear the blue stuff. Like, that's so cool. Pittsburgh's got a good jersey set in this game for sure. St. Louis. St. Louis has pretty much got the exact same jersey sets right now. Got their old stuff in here too, which is nice. Good jersey set for St. Louis. San Jose, one of the nicer jersey sets they've had. Again, if they just went back to this like full time, people would like that a lot more, I think. Too much teal now. Like, I know that's their whole color scheme, but like, come on, it's too much. Tampa, my favorite era of Tampa jerseys, bar none. The white shoulder, the contrasting style, looks so good. Even that alternate looks so good. I love it. I love its cartoony nature. Leafs, again, I'm a big fan of, okay, I'm gonna die on this hill. The current Leafs logo, I don't like. I understand the need to get away from the Ballard era logo. I like these jerseys. It's this logo, to me, which is almost exactly the Leafs logo right now. I think there's maybe a difference in the logo. I could be wrong. But this style of jersey is what they should have went with, I think. Or at least have an alternate of this. Go back to this, almost this era of the blue top alternate. Looks so good to me. I feel like they need to bring that back. I also do, I like all the Leafs jerseys. Like, even that, look at that 1966, that's as close to pretty much what they've got now. The two thin stripe is a lot better than what they've got currently, I think. Just leaves a lot to be desired. And finally, Vancouver and Washington. Again, Vancouver, probably my favorite era of jerseys here. The gradient jersey, so good. Again, EA develops this game in Vancouver, so again, they're going to put a lot of their jerseys in. Got the skate jerseys. No Johnny Canuck, though, I don't think. No Johnny Canuck jersey, but you got the skate jerseys in, which is the best part. Like, although, you do have the black one. You got the entire old set. That's awesome. Plus you got the black and, oh man, that's so cool. Good stuff by EA to get all those jerseys in. And then the Capitals, like, classic rookie Ovechkin jerseys. In the Yager era, you got the old style stuff. Like, I just love I don't know why they got rid of the Capitals in that. Looks really good. Nevertheless. So that is the run through of the jerseys. That will pretty much do it for this episode. When we come back with episode number 2, actually, am I considering it episode number 1? Yeah, I always consider episode 1. Helps to track the games as well. So when we come back with I'm really bad with where to look now. When we come back with episode 1, we will jump in, take a look at our team, potentially make a trade, potentially make a free agent signing, stuff like that. But that will be our first episode of our Buffalo Sabres. Is it Dynasty Mode? We call it Dynasty Mode? Yeah, we call it Dynasty Mode in this. Dynasty Mode series. Buffalo Sabres, the goat head. We are going to be ready to rock and roll with that very soon, so keep an eye out for that, guys. Appreciate you watching. This is a long one. I know I'm at my recording time of 1 hour, 12 minutes, so we'll see how much this even gets cut down. Again, usually I'm pretty free flowing with these videos, so it might end up right around this time frame, but I'll try my best to cut it down for you guys. But if you watched from the beginning to the end, appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you watched even a little, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Keep an eye out, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button on the video. Leave a comment down below. This is the best time to get these comments in. I usually do a lot of batch recording, so get the comments in now if you want to see a move, if you want to see a player back in Buffalo. Again, 2 things we've already got cooking. Thomas Vanek being traded to like Edmonton if the offer sheet had gone through. And the other one is bringing Alexander McGillney back to Buffalo to end his career. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. Click like, click subscribe. I will check you out on the next video.